Okay. Welcome you guys to the encore of How to Be a Great Coach. I appreciate you all being here. I know there's all kinds of things you could be doing with your time, and I really honor and acknowledge you showing up. If you haven't already done so, type in the question box area. Type in who you are and where you're from, so I can do a little roll call here before we get started. So we have Mara from Tampa, Florida, Joyce from Oxnard, California, right next door to me, Stephanie from Jamaica, Cora from New York. We have Reen from Kelowna, Canada, one of my absolute most famous or most favorite places. Steve from Indiana, Ali from Australia, Deborah from Jamaica, Zainab from Georgia. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not pronouncing that correctly, you can type in, give me the phonics version of it so I'm pronouncing it correctly. We have Sean from Sacramento, Jordy from Spain. Welcome, Jordy. Lakeisha from Massachusetts. I'm going to guess Madanea is my guess. South Africa in New York. Awesome. Kelly from Ireland, currently in California. Estine from Albuquerque. I thought it was going to be Alberta. Annette from Minnesota. Dolores from Illinois. Kim from California. Jeff from California. Maria from Maryland. It's close to me right now. I'm in Virginia. Sean from Sacramento. Pamela, Phoenix. Amber, Alabama. Nellie from Toronto, Jacqueline, New Jersey, Adonia, Lauren, Audrey, Carol, Florida, Natasha. Awesome. All right, Bridget, Nancy, welcome you guys. Nellie says we can't see the chats from everybody else's. You can only get that directly from me back, so it's really just a one-on-one interaction inside the question box at least. So welcome everyone to this webinar, How to Be a Great Coach. And what I want to start with is just my feelings about coaching. This industry, first of all, let me introduce who I am. So that's me on the screen. My name is Sean Smith. I am the Director of Coaching and Training for Motivating the Masses. Many of you know Motivating the Masses as Lisa Nichols' company. I've been the coach, or the Director of Coaching and Training for the better part of a year now. And before that, I was in my own business, coaching and speaking and training in the entrepreneurial world, primarily for about 10 years. And I built a successful multiple six-figure coaching business. I've certified coaches in the past. I've been training coaches. I've been training speakers, etc. And I'm just a transformational geek, I would say, because I just absolutely love the idea of transformation, the conversation around transformation. I love going to transformational programs, seminars, etc. And I just love the personal development journey. And the coaching industry is, I usually say it's dirty. I don't want to sound negative, but the coaching industry is full of a lot of coaches who want to learn and a lot of trainers who want to teach how to build your business. And that's fantastic to learn how to build your business. Obviously, if you're thinking about becoming a coach or you currently are a coach, business building is an important piece, right, of the puzzle, because you have to be able to make money. You have to, you have to understand sales. You have to understand marketing. You got to understand all that stuff. And what I've noticed, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, I would say, there's so much content out there. There's so many programs out there about how to build your coaching business that a lot of people are forgetting how to be a good coach. And if you're not a good coach, then building a coaching business is useless. And we need to treat this industry with the kind of respect that it deserves. Right? If you take a look at becoming a therapist or a counselor or a doctor or a lawyer or a school teacher, you take a look at doing good work in a bunch of those different kinds of industries, it requires you to not only go through certification, it requires you to prove that you are good at what you do. And in the coaching industry, there is no such proof. There is no such requirement. Now, I'm not saying, that's all bad, because it's great that people can become a coach and get to the market relatively fast, right? And that's great. I like that part of it. But the downside of it is that, and I'm not sitting from my, sitting on my high horse saying, oh, well, a lot of you out there are no good aren't good coaches from a judgmental standpoint. That's not what I'm trying to get at. I'm not, I'm not in comparison right now that I'm better than anybody else. That's not where I'm coming from. Where I'm coming from is that a lot of people rush into building their coaching business because they want to make money, and they do themselves a disservice. Not only do they do themselves a disservice, they don't really help the people that they could help because they're not as good of a coach as they could be. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the integrity of the industry and the integrity of your potential client, right? So for that reason, you need to be a good coach. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be perfect, because if you had to be perfect to be a coach, then I would step down immediately and everybody that I know would lose their coaching card. So it's not about you getting clear of all of your challenges or anything like that, but it is about you studying this art, and it is an art form. Coaching is not scientific. Coaching is not something that you can just run people through an assembly line, basically, and say, okay, in order to change your life, you have to do this and then that and then that, because that's just not reality when we're dealing with human beings. So you've got to be willing to study this as an art form, and you've got to be willing to put in the time. If you're not willing to put in the time, then you won't have the confidence that's required. You won't have the certainty in your body that's required for you to actually build your business financially, right? So I'm not saying that I don't want you to focus on building your business. I'm saying in order for you to focus on building your business, you have to be a great coach so that you can know what you're talking about and you can speak more intelligently about the outcomes that people are going to face, and you can show up with more certainty in your energy. So, all right, that's my soapbox about the reason that we need to be a good coach. And just to check in with you guys, let me know how long you've been coaching. So type into the chat box there, the question box, how long you've been coaching. And if the answer is 0, that's fine. If you're a brand new person wanting to become a coach, that's great. But I'd love to find out a little bit more about who's on the line and how long you've been coaching. And there's no judgment inside of any of this. So Joyce, thank you. Kim, Mary, Stephanie, thank you all for your input. And I know there's a bunch more people that I'm not going to call out just right now, but I appreciate your input. I'm looking through all your answers right now. So here's the deal. It is absolutely possible to create a lucrative coaching business that is incredibly fulfilling. It's possible to create your own schedule. It's possible to charge as much money as you want. You guys, there are coaches out there that make hundreds of dollars an hour. There are coaches out there that make thousands of dollars an hour. My last coach, I paid $2,500 per hour, happily. $2,500 per hour. I invested in a $25,000 coaching program for 10 hours. And it was fantastic because it's not about the hourly rate, it's about the value. And I say that because that's what your customers are ultimately going to judge your value on. It's the outcome, it's the result you can produce, not the hourly rate. And as a coach, I need you. I really, really want you to think about the outcome, not the hourly rates, right? Now, I'm not saying that all of you should immediately start charging $2,500 an hour, although that'd be nice. But I want you to be focused on outcomes. And when you're focused on outcomes, you can charge an amazing amount of money. And it can be absolutely lucrative and fulfilling and create freedom in your life if you do it right. But you have to do it right. And part of doing it right is being a great coach. You can make a bigger impact in the world. I know all of you, if you're on this webinar and you haven't already hung up based on my soapbox, then that means that you're out to change the world. And I honor that about you. I appreciate that about you. So let's talk about the number one business building mistake that most coaches make. In my opinion, it's trying to market way too soon. And I already alluded to that in the beginning. But so many coaches are focused on selling right away. And while I love the ambition, I totally appreciate the ambitious nature behind getting into the business side of it ASAP. When you do it too soon, it can actually be dangerous. And the reason it's dangerous is because emotionally it doesn't feel good when you go out to the market and you try to sell yourself as a coach and nobody buys. I've spent so much time with so many coaches who have jumped out into the marketplace, got a bunch of no's, a bunch of rejection, and they're left with that emotional disaster. And it's tough to pick yourself back up after having been told no repeatedly, right? And it's also dangerous to jump out in the marketplace when you're not clear and certain about who you are, because you might give off a poor impression to somebody. And if they have a poor first impression of you, chances are they won't come back and answer any more emails from you, open them up, or go on any more phone calls, because their first experience of you wasn't good. Now, obviously, we're going to start as a beginner and we're going to progress, but when we start as a beginner, we want to start with as much certainty and clarity and confidence that we possibly can have, right? So I don't want to tell you that you've got to have, high school proficiency before you jump into kindergarten, but you've got to know what you're talking about to the point that you can have an intelligent conversation and it won't be a dangerous conversation for you. And then the third way it can be dangerous is financially. You might lose a lot of money, and there are financial mistakes that you can make that you can't recover from. So you've got to have the right starting point before into marketing. And there are four main areas that you've got to have certainty around. Number one is certainty around yourself. That is knowing who you are, knowing where you came from, knowing what your skill set is. Not necessarily skill set in terms of abilities, but what do you bring to the world, right? What do you bring to the table? What's your unique story, basically? And the second thing that you've got to have certainty around is your seeker. And that's basically another way of saying your client, your ideal client or your target client or your niche or niche. Kelly from Ireland, I know you don't like when we say niche. So it's really who that person is out there that's seeking your information. And I personally like to think about who's seeking you, not who are you seeking. Because then it's easier to show up with the spirit of service and say, I'm just showing up to serve this person that needs me right now. So you have to have clarity on who your seeker is. The third thing is your solution. What products are you going to offer? What programs are you going to give to the world? You have to understand how to package those programs, how to price those programs, how to position those programs, how to talk about those programs. Those are your solutions, the things that people are going to buy. And then the fourth thing is what I'm going to focus on in this webinar, which is your skill set. That's why it's not abbreviated, but italicized there and capitalized, is your skill set. And that's the whole idea of being a great coach, right? So let's talk about coaching in general, specifically breakthrough coaching. I am only interested in breakthrough coaching. That doesn't mean that other forms of coaching aren't valid. And when I say breakthrough coaching, I'm talking about transformational coaching that can really change the foundation of a human being, like truly alter the emotional makeup of somebody and give them emotional and energetic breakthroughs at a cellular level. Now, that doesn't mean that if you teach somebody how to do something and, with no judgment whatsoever, I'm just using this as an example. Let's say somebody is a real estate coach and they want to teach somebody how to invest in real estate. That is fantastic. I have no judgment around the validity of that. That's awesome. And you might be able to say that if you teach somebody how to make money in the real estate market, then that could lead to a breakthrough in their life because they can become more financially free and all of that. And all of that is true. I'm not disputing that at all. the distinction I'm making inside of transformational coaching is the coaching that really deals internally with people's beliefs, their values, their conflicts, the emotional drivers that they have, all of that stuff. So it's just playing below the surface, basically, right? So again, I'm not making any judgment on people that want to be more of a surface level coach. That's just not who I am. And so I am only interested in the conversation about transformational coaching. So that's where I come from. That's what this whole webinar will be based on. And transformational coaching, as you look at the image there, the difference is, quite simply, above the surface and below the surface, right? So above the surface coaching is you're focused on people's behaviors. You're focused on patterns. You're trying to teach them how to alter their behaviors or how to invest or how to change their diet. That's all great, but that's above the surface. You focus on their language maybe. We take a look at the results people are getting in their life and then tell them how to change their results by changing their behaviors. And that's a valid form of coaching. However, behaviors can only stick if you do the below the surface work, right? The reason that image is so powerful of the iceberg is you only see a very small percentage of the iceberg above water, but the iceberg actually lives below water. The bulk of the iceberg, the strength of the iceberg is above the water. If you want to make a tangible shift in the positioning of that iceberg, the way to do it is to move what's below the surface. Don't just try to move what's above the surface of the water. And that's what so many people are trying to do with their life, is they're trying to make surface level changes, hoping that they will fundamentally shift their internal reality. And that's outside in approach. That's the outside in approach to human behavior or achievement rather. That's the outside in approach to personal development. And the outside in approach only works for a short period of time. Because if that below the surface chunk of the iceberg is not moved, then you're just going to come back, right? And imagine, that iceberg has an anchor, let's say, attached to the bottom of the seafloor. Then it doesn't matter what you do above the surface, you're always going to be pulled back to the roots. You're always going to be pulled back to wherever it is that you're anchored, right? So the way that works better is the inside-out approach to transformation, the inside-out approach to personal development. So the below-the-surface conversation involves some of the things that I mentioned a moment ago: drivers, beliefs, conflicts, what your core self is. All of that stuff is below the surface work, right? So if this is making sense to you, just type in, I know this is going to be weird, but I like to be weird. Just type in pineapple for the question. I like to make sure that people are actually paying attention and they're paying attention to what I'm saying, and I like sort of mixing it up and giving you weird feedback. So we got pineapple from a bunch of people. Great. Awesome. So that's transformational coaching. Now, the way that I learned transformational coaching and the way that I teach transformational coaching is through a curriculum called Neuro-Linguistic Programming, basically. And Neuro-Linguistic Programming is referred to as NLP. NLP coaching is a form of breakthrough coaching, transformational coaching. It's not the only form, but again, it's the only form that I know well, so it's the only form that I am interested in. And it's because I had my big personal breakthrough through neuro-linguistic. And naturally, we have a breakthrough in a certain kind of modality, and then we want to learn that modality. At least that's what I did. I wanted to learn the modality and teach other people what I experienced. So I became certified in neuro-linguistic programming for my money, and in my experience, it's the most powerful set of tools that can break through the blocks in people's lives. It's both internal and external. And what I mean by that, internal is your limiting beliefs, your identity, your core self, your drivers, all of those intangible stuff that's going on inside you. External is goal setting, it's language, relationships, communication, all the stuff that's outside of you and how you interact with people or how you interact with the world. Neuro-linguistic programming handles all of that. It also handles future as well as past, right? So it's not just dealing with pain that you might have from your childhood or something like that. I mean, we can do that in neuro-linguistic programming. That's a big part of removing people's blocks. But it can also be, how are you going to go after your 2016 goals and engage your unconscious mind in a way such that you have a better chance of, obviously achieving those goals, right? And neuro-linguistic programming can also give you a distinction in your market. And the way it would be a distinction is not necessarily telling people you're an NLP coach. I would actually advise against that, because a lot of people don't know what NLP is. Use them, and you have to explain it anyway. And people don't really care what certifications you have. They just want an outcome, like I was talking about maybe 10 minutes ago. But the way it can give you a distinction in the market is in what you talk about, what you teach. When you teach more of the deeper connection sort of content, that's what will give you a distinction, because people will realize that you're teaching them about the reasons why they need to do this kind of work, the reasons why they generally get stuck, right? So like, you can take what you learned in neuro-linguistic programming and talk to people about their diets and explain to them why just chasing the next diet of the month isn't working, because you haven't changed your identity. You haven't changed your limiting beliefs about food or about who you are in the world. You haven't changed, just to complete the identity thought, you haven't changed your identity that you're actually a fat person. And I don't mean any disrespect or to be harsh, but that's the reality. A lot of people struggle with weight loss because their identity is that they're a fat person. And so it doesn't matter if you lose weight. If your identity is that you're still a fat person, you're going to put the weight back on. Until the identity changes, the external circumstances can't stick, right? So anyway, you can have more intelligent, more meaningful conversations when you educate your seeker, and that's how you're going to get distinction in the marketplace. Now, the most profitable trait, the most important trait as a coach is curiosity. And the cool thing about that is everybody can be curious. We're all naturally curious anyway, right? It's about tapping into that curiosity and then using some skills. And I'm going to go through some skills here on this webinar tonight. One of the things I want to do is teach you a few exercises you can use immediately as an introduction to increasing your skill set, especially as a breakthrough coach. And then I'll talk about a deeper training that I have coming up, that we as a company have coming up later on at the beginning of next year, if any of you want to go further. But curiosity is where your coaching skills need to live in. If you just have exercises that you can do with people, if you have skill sets that can help you be a good coach, but you don't have a genuine curiosity about people, a genuine curiosity about human behavior, then those skill sets are not going to mean anything. Honestly, they're just not going to mean much because you don't have the right energy, right? You don't have the right come from, I would say. So you've got to have the depth of curiosity that we all had as kids, just curious about people's lives, curious about transformation in general, curious about human behavior. Why do people sabotage themselves? Curious about yourself. All of that is critical for you to be a great coach. So I want you to live inside of curiosity. Now, before we get into some of the pieces around how to do some breakthrough coaching work, I want to teach you a little bit about how the human brain learns. There are three main ways the human brain learns. One way is deletion. And what that means is the brain is absorbing millions of bits of information every single day. It would go crazy, and we would go crazy, if it didn't have the ability to delete most of that information. It just doesn't pay attention to most of the things that it encounters on a daily basis. And it does that through, or the way it decides what to delete is based on all of our programming. What we tell ourselves is not important to us, etc. I won't go too deep into that. but just to know that the brain deletes a ton of information. It also distorts information. So when it doesn't delete a bit of information, it might distort it to match what it already believes to be true. So for instance, if you have a belief that all people are good, you might encounter some information of a person, not calling you, let's say, when you have a scheduled appointment and they don't call you. But because you have a fundamental belief that all people are good, you're going to take that to mean that that person was probably just busy and it's no big deal. Somebody else that has a fundamental belief that all people are jerks will take that same piece of information and distort it to mean that that person doesn't like you, or that person is just, a terrible human being. So distortion is what explains how two people can see the exact same thing and have different takeaways from it, or have different meanings to it, right? Because we're all distorting information to match what we believe to be true about ourself, society, and people, ourself, people in society, and the world around us, right? So that's the distortion piece. And then the third one is generalization. We have a great ability to generalize information. And it's important to generalize information. Otherwise, we would have to learn everything that we encounter all over again, right? Every time that we see a phone that is different, we would have to relearn that it's a phone. But now we know that something that, it looks like a mobile phone and it's got that basic dimension and it's got numbers on it and people are holding it in their pocket and they're talking into it. We know that's probably a phone because we've come across that before and we can generalize it. Generalizing is critical for us to live our lives, and it also becomes a challenge when our beliefs get involved, similar to distorting, when we overgeneralize certain experiences that we have in our life and then we decide that something is true. So for instance, you might have been in a bad relationship in the past and you generalize that, if you're a woman, you might generalize that all men are jerks. And that generalization is helpful in the moment to be able to come to grips with your experience, but it's not helpful for you and your love life, because if you have a belief that all men are jerks, you're going to spend the rest of your energy, until you change that belief, you'll spend the rest of your life trying to protect yourself and not letting anybody close to your heart, because you have now a fundamental belief that all men are jerks and that you're going to get hurt, right? So that's where generalization really doesn't serve us, because we live inside of it as though it's a universal truth, right? So those are the three main ways the human brain learns. And I appreciate your guys' engagement. I see several of you are saying good stuff, and you're speaking right to me. Dina says it's important to know the brain to help our clients have long-lasting transformation. Bingo, that's the key here. If you don't understand how the human brain works, you don't really understand human behavior, the patterns that we have, then you're not going to be a great coach, because you can't really help people through their transformations. You can't pace them through it. You can't support them to make the changes. You can't coach them around long-lasting transformation that sticks. You just can't do any of that stuff unless you understand the fundamentals of human behavior and how we operate and how we grow and change our lives, basically. Now, inside of the concept around how the human brain works, there are these 4 stages of learning. This is one of my favorite pieces of coaching, and specifically transformational coaching content. I've used this so often with coaches to explain what stage of learning that they're in, and it helps them understand their patterns. It helps them not get too judgmental, not beat themselves up. This is really, really critical information. The first stage of learning is unconscious incompetence. And what that means is that you don't know how to do something. That's incompetence. But you also don't know about it. You don't know what you don't know how to do, right? That's where the phrase ignorance is bliss comes into play. When you don't know, you're your inadequacies, let's say, when you don't know your non-capabilities, you don't feel bad about it because you don't know about it. And then as soon as you become educated around something, now you're conscious about your inadequacies. And that doesn't feel good. But there's also an element of excitement inside that stage because you want to change. You want to make that change. So there's ambition inside of there. You're excited about a new future. You're excited about being able to change your head talk or change your limiting beliefs, etc. So there's an excitedness there. But sometimes there's a frustration because you're still acutely aware of your inadequacies, the things that you're not able to do. And then the third stage is where you become competent, but it still takes conscious effort. So now you might know how to change your emotional state. You might know how to change your head talk. You might know how to keep yourself motivated, keep yourself inspired. But you have to intentionally do it. So the frustration at this phase is created because you judge the process as being wrong or hard, meaning even though you know how to maintain, or not maintain, but manage, even though you know how to manage your emotions or manage your fears, it's easy to get frustrated that you still have to manage your fears. You know, people, once they learn how to get rid of a fear, they then decide and hope that their fear will never come back. So when the fear does come back, and they understand the reality that they actually have to keep working on themselves, that's when they get frustrated. So the frustration is created in the judgment of the journey because people want to get rid of a problem and then have the problem never come back. And when people get frustrated inside of conscious competence, they quite often quit because they decide that the journey is not worth the fight, right? The outcome is not worth the fight. The fourth stage is what most people are trying to get to, and hardly anybody ever gets there in the bigger areas of their life, and that's unconscious competence. That's where all of the positive behaviors are now on autopilot. You don't have to think about it anymore. For most people, that means they don't have any fears, they don't have any doubts, they don't have any negative thoughts anymore, they don't question their abilities, they don't have any worries, right? But that is absolutely impossible as a human being. If you're going to continue growing, it's impossible to get rid of those things that most people are hoping they can just get rid of forever. So unconscious competence is basically not even possible for the majority of the big things that we experience in our life. Now, it is absolutely possible for a lot of things in our life. We are all unconsciously competent in all sorts of things, whether it's brushing our teeth or driving while we're on the phone, breathing. There's all kinds of things, you know, making breakfast or dinner or just any kind of food. There's all kinds of things that we do without the need for conscious focus. And those things are all unconsciously, or we are unconsciously competent in all those things. But the problem is we're not aware of them. We don't pay attention to them because they're unconscious. So most of us live inside of the awareness of all the things that we can't do. And that adds to a lot of the frustration as well, right? But these are the basic 4 stages of learning. So as a coach, you want to pace people through those stages of learning and let them know that it's okay to be where they are. It's okay to be in the unconscious incompetent phase. It's okay to be in the conscious competence phase, right? And the goal is just to make progress. Now, you might be in the conscious competence phase for the rest of your life in most of the areas that you're working on. That's okay. So we got to manage the expectations that we have as well as the expectations that a lot of our clients have so that they don't have all this negative judgment around the journey itself. Cool. I'm just looking at some of the comments. Powerful, says Megan. Very helpful, Dina or Dinah. Cool. Thank you for you guys for your feedback and keep it coming. So the 5 meaning filters is something that I learned in neuro-linguistic programming. I think it's at least these labels and the combination of these labels is unique to neuro-linguistic programming. And the 5 meaning filters, what that means is, how do we determine what things mean in our lives? Because the reality is, nothing that we encounter in our experience of the world has any inherent meaning. We put the meaning on everything that we experience. That's why 2 people can experience the same thing, and one walks away with a positive meaning to it, and somebody else might walk away with a negative meaning to it, right? Even things like death. There are many cultures that totally celebrate death. So just because somebody died doesn't necessarily mean that misery is required. It doesn't mean that deep grief is required. People experience death different ways, and it's because of the meaning that they put onto it. So your joy in life will be determined by how you choose to make things mean, right? I know that might be kind of weird the way I said it, but your ability to make things mean something empowering is going to determine how joyful you are in your life. And most people, they don't make things mean anything empowering. Most people make the big things that happen in their life disempowering. And that's the choice that they're making, right? Now, they might not know that it is a choice and that they can make a different choice, but in reality, it is a choice. So the 5 filters that are at play for us to make these meanings are meta programs, and that's basically your fundamental programming in life. Whether you ultimately see things as, just to use the analogy, the glass half empty or the glass half full, whether you ultimately are more programmed to see the differences in people or the sameness in people. Meta programs, for the most part, are black and white. You're either more programmed to view the world this way, or you're more programmed to view the world this way, and it's all determined by your upbringing. The second filter are your values. What are the things that are important to you? That's going to determine what you make things mean in your life. Your beliefs. There are 3 chunks of beliefs. Beliefs you have about yourself, beliefs you have about other people around you, and beliefs you have about the world. The 4th meaning filter, memory. Whatever you remember from your life will have a profound impact on your future decisions about what things mean, because you have a memory, right? If you have a memory of somebody leaving you inside of a romantic relationship, then that memory is going to color your future experiences, because that memory is going to be one of your drivers, right? And then the final meaning filter are the decisions that you've made in the past and the decision patterns that you have. So there are more things involved in the way we make meanings, but these are the 5 main ones and what we teach inside of neuro-linguistic programming. I want to address Adonia. She says, that was big. We put meaning on everything we experience. I believe that to be true, but it's very powerful to actually hear it. Yeah, it's sobering and empowering at the same time. That it's like a bitter pill to swallow for some people, called responsibility. You're responsible for the way you live your life. You are responsible for every emotion you ever feel, ever. You're responsible for it because you're choosing that emotion. And sometimes people don't like that because it feels like they're taking blame for their life, but there's empowerment inside of that, because that means that you can choose to change your life at any point in time by changing the meanings that you put on things, which changes your emotional state, which changes your decisions, etc. So I'm going to teach you this 6-part, 6-step Ignite framework. Now, this is a framework that I've developed personally inside of my coaching experience. I'm not going to teach to all the points here, just because that's not, the scope of this webinar, but I do want to give you the framework. And Ignite is an acronym. The I stands for inquire and identify. That's where curiosity plays a big role. To be curious and identify what your client wants, identify what their model of the world is, and you basically just ask questions inside that step. The second step is to get permission and get leverage from the client. You don't have permission to coach somebody unless they give it to you, and most coaches don't ever ask for permission to coach people. And without their permission, you run the risk of creating disconnect. You run the risk of losing rapport. And you also want to get leverage. You got to understand why they want to change and if they want to change now. The N stands for new outcomes. That means you got to get clarity around what it is that they want to do differently. You know, what's the new outcome that we're looking for? And you want to get that from their perspective and in their language, not what you think they want. The I stands for inner work, and that's the scope of this particular webinar, basically, is focusing on the inner work. How can we make some of those internal transformational experiences for people? Once you do the inner work, the T stands for test and tweak. You want to test the scenario. You want to test the new belief. You want to test the new behavior pattern. And if it's not producing what you want, the new outcome that you want to produce, then you just tweak it, right? That's a big part of coaching, is to be scientific on some level. You know, whatever you want in your life, let's put a game plan in place, and if you get it, then great. With the new game plan, then keep doing it. If you don't get what you want with the new game plan, then change the game plan. It doesn't have to be any more emotionally charged than that. And finally, the E, the last letter, E, stands for empower them to succeed. And that's where you teach your client how to coach themselves. You teach your clients how to notice their emotions, how to notice their shift in energy, you know, the awareness and all that good stuff. So that's empowering them to succeed. Now that we have that framework, actually, I want to just briefly talk about rapport. I'm not going to give you any rapport exercises right now, but I just want to talk about it because it's so critical to create rapport. And rapport is basically when you create trust with another person. And inside of rapport, what you're going to do is you're going to notice your own experience without judging it. You're going to notice what your thoughts are, what your emotions are. You're going to notice your body language, etc., inside the coaching environment. You're going to notice their experience as well, again, without judging. You're going to notice their body language, their emotional shifts, you know, everything you can about them. And when you are really living inside of rapport, you're just going to be present with people. You're going to be there. And when you have rapport as a coach, and then you have some of the skills to do the transformational work, that you're powerful. At that point, you are really, really powerful. But good coaching requires rapport. So let's talk a little bit about these inner work exercises. And what I want to do is, actually somebody says, how does inner work work? We'll go through that right now, Vivian. I want to teach you a few exercises and give you a couple tools around the inner work. But what that means is the internal stuff. So helping people identify what their internal blocks are, what their sabotaging patterns are, what their limiting beliefs are. That's the inner work that's required to make a transformation last. That's the inside-out approach that I was talking about earlier. So that's what I mean by inner work. Now I want to teach you a few things about inner work, and maybe even do a couple of exercises. Maybe bring somebody on from the audience and do a couple of exercises with people if we have some time. So the first thing about inner work is just understanding the concept behind it. The concept behind the inner work is what we call reframing. Now, reframing is basically what transformational coaching and breakthrough coaching is all about. It's the essence of breakthrough coaching. And what reframing is changing the way that you hold on to your past, right? You can't change the past. You can't pretend that things that happened didn't happen. But what you can do is change the way you're holding on to those past experiences, so that instead of holding on to the fact that your mom and dad got a divorce, let's say, instead of holding on to that as a disempowering piece of evidence that you're not lovable or that you're not good enough or that no marriage lasts, you can hold on to that as an empowering piece of evidence that your parents showed you what not to do. And you might have picked up the way to really nurture a relationship because of the experience that you had. So you can't change the facts, but you can change the way you're holding on to it. We call it reframing because if you think of a picture with a frame on it, you can't change the actual picture, but you can change the frame. Maybe the frame goes from black to gray or from red to blue. You can change the frame around the picture. And that, in effect, can change your experience of the picture, but you can't change the picture itself. And in that analogy, the picture is your experience, what actually factually happened. Actually factually. What factually happened is what you can't change. You can reframe it so that you have a new way of looking at something old. You have a new pattern. You have a new reference. You have a new emotional state around something that happened to you. Now, this is really critical. You're not searching inside of reframing. You're not searching for the right answer. You're just searching for a different possibility. And why that's critical is that a lot of people are trying to find the truth. They're trying to find the truth of why something happened to you in the past, right? They might be searching for why. I'm just going to use the divorce example. Why did my dad leave my mom? Or why was my mom so vicious toward my dad? And if you search for the truth behind that, there are really only two sources, in the personal world to get that information, which is your mom and dad. Now, they might have passed on. They might have passed away, so you don't have access to them anymore, or they might not be in any kind of situation whatsoever interested at all in having a discussion around the truth, right? Or you might want to be seeking the truth as to why something happened to you, maybe something traumatic, like some level of abuse happened to you in your childhood. You searching for the truth of why that happened is unhealthy, and it's not effective, especially if you don't have access to that person anymore. Then, of course, you're going on, this wild goose chase, and the goose doesn't exist, basically, right? But the reality is the human mind doesn't need to know the truth. The human mind just needs a new possibility that makes you feel better. So you just decide what a better story is. You just decide it. And that's the idea of reframing, right? You just choose to hold on to it in a different light. And inside of that, you can have a fantastic breakthrough experience, and it can last because you have a new frame to hold on to your past with, or a certain experience in your past with. Now, when it comes to reframing, what's really important is you let the client do the reframing. Don't give them the reframe. Don't tell them, well, because you experienced a divorce, what that means is blah, blah, blah. You want to ask questions and be curious to see what they think it means. And whatever they say is going to stick better for them. Whatever they say is going to basically be true. Whatever you say can be challenged. Whatever they say is true. And they'll remember it easier, right? So a good coach allows the client to come up with the reframes so the client can remember them better. So that's the essence of reframing. I love the interaction. Too many people are trying to be right. Absolutely. You're touching my heart right now. Cool. You're not searching for the right answer, just a different possibility. Awesome. Annette says many people are not able to move forward because they're searching for the right answer or what they want to believe. 100% agreement there with you, Annette. And that's the problem, is that people aren't moving forward because they're stuck in the past, right? So that's the essence of reframing. And one of the ways that you can create reframes really well, and one of the ways that you can deliver just about any coaching really well, is by using metaphors. And the reason metaphors are so powerful is that people always put themselves into a story. You can't resist a good story. You just naturally put yourself into it, because that's the way that we've been programmed for years and years and years, whether it was getting books read to us when we were young. All movies are a story. All books are a story. Most commercials are a story. I think all commercials are a story. Whether they're good or not is another thing. But, we're programmed to learn through story. That's why teaching through story is so incredibly powerful, especially when there's some intention behind it, and you can generate metaphors that your clients can put themselves into and then get the lesson. Because the client is going to get the moral of the story on their own if you set it up in a way that engages them, right? And the other thing about metaphors is they're more memorable. People will remember an analogy that maybe there's an analogy that connects marriage to soccer. And in this moment, I don't know what that is, but I'm just saying, if there's a way, like let's say you have a client that really loves soccer, if there's a way to embed the moral of a certain coaching technique or something inside of the concept of playing soccer, they're going to remember it more because they love soccer, right? So any way that you can embed a coaching concept or a moral inside of a metaphor, anytime you can do that, it's super, super powerful. Cool. I'm getting some more feedback here. Yeah, Allie says, what's right anyway? I absolutely agree. What's right and wrong is that in itself is up for debate. I often say truth is an opinion. And what I mean by that is what most people would call truth is actually just a judgment. And yet they're allowing their judgment of truth to run their life and dictate their life. And it's dangerous to be attached to this concept of truth as though it is a fact, when most of the time, most of the things that we talk about and that we focus on are judgments. They're opinions that we have. They're not actual right and wrong. So back to metaphors. Actually, that was it on metaphors. But just to wrap that up, anytime that you know what your client wants and you know what they are good at and you know what they're interested in, that's super valuable information for you to embed your coaching inside. And you can just keep going back to the same metaphor for certain clients. Hey, remember, it's like soccer. You got to run before you get the ball passed to you. Awesome. That's a metaphor that they'll remember. Or it's like riding a bike. You got to pedal before you can balance. You can't just balance without pedaling. And maybe that's a good metaphor for somebody to remember, that they have to get in motion before they collect feedback around building a business or whatever, whatever they're really wanting to do in their life. All right, now okay, this is great. Let's do this. We're almost an hour into the webinar, and thank you, Nikki, for saying this is really great information. I appreciate that. We're almost an hour into the webinar, and what I want to do is I want to do some coaching. I want to actually bring some people on the line to do some work around coaching. Like, we'll actually do these exercises. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that everybody is, not everybody, I just want to check in because somebody just sent in a question. Let's see. Esteem says, does reframing ever perpetuate the negative behavior that the customer, looks like you got cut off there, the customer wants, or the customer, that doesn't make sense. The customer wants negative behavior, but maybe the negative behavior that the customer was engaged in, I'm guessing. I can't see the end of that sentence. That's a fantastic question, Esteem, and I can see how that might happen, where reframing becomes almost like a Pollyanna avoidance mechanism. And that's where you as the coach, you're charged with making sure that it doesn't become some kind of coping mechanism or avoidance mechanism that causes the client to not address something or not to embrace the reality of something. So that's never the intention. And I think if done properly, I do see how that could happen, but that's not how you should ever, help somebody reframe something. You want them to reframe it so that they can move forward. You never want them to reframe it so that they can just cope with the problem. And thank you for that question. That's really good. All right, so let's get into some coaching. It's going to be awesome. But before I do that, what I want to do is I want to jump ahead. Since we're about an hour in, and I want to honor your guys' time as much as possible, so that if some of you are getting ready to jump off the webinar, I don't want you to miss the announcement. I want to jump ahead to what we've got coming up here. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to go forward in my slides here. Actually, we're not going too far forward. Oh, this stuff is so fun, you guys. Actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do this, because it looks like I've only got one more slide before we get into my announcement. So let's just go ahead and do this. What I'd like to do is invite one of you on the line to go through this 4 questions exercise with me. You guys will all be able to take this and use it literally tomorrow or tonight with somebody else. You can do it with yourself, although it's always better to do it with somebody else. And inside of NLP, we call these the Cartesian coordinates. Sometimes I just call them the 4 questions. So what I want is somebody who has some sort of conflict right now about whether you should do something or not do something. That's where this coaching technique would be really, really powerful. So if you're in that situation, raise your hand, just inside the control panel there, raise your hand if you would like some support around helping yourself make some decision around whether you should do something or not do something. So let me choose somebody. Some people's hands are going down. Actually, I'm going to choose Ingrid, and here's why. This is great. Ingrid is putting her hand up, then putting it down, then putting it up, then putting it down, and putting it up and putting it down, and putting it up and putting it down. And that's awesome, because that to me means pick me, pick me, pick me. That's like the equivalent of somebody standing up at a live event, right? Where you ask for a volunteer and everybody raises their hand, but somebody raises their hand and stands up. So that is going to be Ingrid. So what I'm going to do is unmute you, Ingrid. Okay, so Ingrid, you are now unmuted. Can you say something to make sure we can hear you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Welcome.
Oh my God.
Where are you calling from?
I never get picked.
Well, that was a story that you used to have, and based on your old meaning filters, that might have determined the quality of your life, Ingrid, but never again, right?
Oh my gosh.
You can never again say you never get picked, because right now you are on the love seat.
Oh my goodness.
So tell me where you're calling from.
From Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Excellent. So what's this thing? And I don't need the whole story behind it, but I just want to know what the thing is that you're sort of waffling around. You don't know if you should do this or not do this. What's the conflict here?
Okay, well, I recently kind of lost my car I had for like 6 years, and it was a car that was bought from my father's estate when he was, when he died, after he died. And throughout my whole life, my father always got me cars that were just always needed work. They were kind of downtrodden kind of cars. And now I have a friend that really reminds me a lot of my father. It's always,
Okay.
every time he does something, it reminds me of my father. Well, he has this car, and, I really don't have to pay for it because he said, well, when I need to go get my other car fixed, I'll use it, and I just need it, to get to my jobs on the weekends. And, of course, it's kind of like a car, very much like a car that my father would have bought me.
Okay.
And so, and the other part is that I'm not so comfortable being friends with this person, but they are more than willing to let me use this car so I can get to my my therapy job on the weekend. And I'm waffling back and forth because I kind of want to raise my consciousness to a higher level, that I have something more reliable. That's something that's not, reminds me of the cars that I've had since I was a kid that my father would get, that, aren't as reliable.
Okay, so the question that you're going back and forth on basically is what exactly, whether you should keep this car or whether you should buy a different car. I'm not totally clear.
Or just wait, just wait and work on the business that I'm trying to work on the side, and get something that's more appealing, or to just get this car.
Okay.
And the other part is, I'm not so sure I really want to stay connected with this person any longer, because they do remind me so much of my father.
Okay, got it. So your main question is, should you purchase this car?
Just,
true?
like I said, like, he's not expecting me to pay for this car.
Okay, so should you take this car?
Right.
Okay, great. So let's use that as the clear statement. Should you take this car? So I'm going to ask you these 4 questions. You all can follow along through the slides as I go through this. So Ingrid, what would happen if you did take this car? What would happen?
I'd still be connected with somebody that I'm not wanting to be connected with.
Okay.
I'd have a connection.
Anything else?
I'd be concerned that I'd have to make a lot of repairs on it.
Okay. Anything else?
It would just, the big thing that's coming up with me is that I'd still feel like I never got where I wanted to be in my life, of buying a nice car, a really nice car.
Excellent. Okay. So what would happen if you didn't? What would happen, emphasis on would happen, if you didn't take this car?
It would remain really difficult to be able to get to my therapy job without having I rent a car up the street. It'd be costly.
Okay.
Having to rent the car every time I have to go to work on the weekends.
Okay. Is there anything else that would happen if you didn't take this car?
Just be really difficult getting around doing the normal things in life. I do have music friends that I like to play out with, and I still can't get to them.
Okay.
Because they're at a distance.
Okay, cool. Now, what wouldn't happen if you take this car? What would not happen?
What wouldn't happen? That question's hard for me to answer. I don't know why.
So let me pause. That's the brilliance of this question. It's intentionally shocking. And shocking meaning the brain has to sort of reorganize it so that it can even digest it. And you even repeated it. You said, what wouldn't happen? That's the point, is it's a scrambling kind of question. So I'll ask it again. What would not happen if you did take this car?
Oh. my gosh. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time answering that question.
Well, there are certain things that maybe you've been concerned about happening that would not happen. Or maybe you haven't even thought about these certain things until right now as you contemplate this question. But if you do take the car, what are some of the significant things, or one of the significant things that would not happen?
Oh my gosh, I'm feeling rather, I'm not feeling very brilliant right now.
That's okay.
It almost feels like a double negative in my brain.
Yep. Intentionally. So what would not happen, Ingrid, if you did take the car? What would not happen?
I wouldn't not happen. I wouldn't be staying, in the house so much. I do feel kind of trapped here without a car.
Okay.
Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Absolutely. It wouldn't stay in the house.
Oh, okay. Oh my God.
What else?
I wouldn't have to rent the car up the street, that's for sure.
Okay.
I wouldn't be around here, so he would actually show up. I wouldn't be available. I wouldn't be available here. I'm always concerned that, like, if I got the car, I'd have a connection to this person. But if I have a car, I wouldn't be around here. Like on the weekends, my son does like to play, music as well. We'd be out with our friends playing music.
Got it. Okay.
So I wouldn't actually be around that he could just show up.
Perfect. Okay. So the final question is, what would not happen if you didn't get the car?
Oh God, here we go. So if I don't take it, what's not going to happen? Oh yeah, well, him to show up. If I don't take it, I won't have that connection, that's for sure.
So if you don't get the car, you wouldn't have the connection?
Yeah, I wouldn't have that connection, yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't have to deal with his shadow self, that's for sure. So if I don't take the car, what's not going to happen? I feel like I don't even know. I feel like it's almost like a what if question.
Yeah, they're all what if questions because you haven't done it yet.
Right.
So we're contemplating.
Right.
So what wouldn't happen if you don't take the car?
You take the car, what's not going to happen? Well, it almost sounds like the second one, like we wouldn't be able to, hang out with our music friends and things like that and go to open mics and go have more, like more entertainment things that we like to do.
You would not be able to do that stuff? You don't take the car?
Yeah, because they're, distance. They're, I'm in Massachusetts and, my friends are like, hours, a couple of hours away.
Okay. Is there anything else that wouldn't happen if you didn't take the car?
Oh, well, it comes down to that feeling of having one of those cars like my father always bought me.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't.
What do you mean by it comes down to that feeling? Is
it's
that
just a
something
feeling.
you would? Go ahead.
What else I'm fighting with is that feeling of self-sufficiency.
Okay.
And my father always got me those cars, and my brother and I were talking about how it was nice that Dad got us these cars, but it also showed us that, we couldn't take care of ourselves. And
okay, so
in the context of this question, what would not happen if you don't get the car? So talk about, your dad, but in the context of this question, what wouldn't happen if you don't take the car? I wouldn't feel like I can't take care of myself.
Got it. You wouldn't feel like you could take care of yourself if you don't take the car? Is that correct?
I wouldn't feel like I can't take care of myself.
Like you cannot take care of yourself?
Yeah.
Got it. How important is it to feel like you could take care of yourself?
Very important. Even though I have to walk and take a bus, I feel like I'm self-sufficient.
Got it. So, inside of these 4 questions, what do you intuitively know is the right thing for you to do?
Feels like sticking it out and it just feels like stick it out and something better is going to come along.
How does that feel as you say that?
I feel braver. I feel a lot more brave.
Awesome. So is that the choice you're going to make?
It's a hard one because that car's just sitting there. It's really hard.
Okay, so you'd rather stay inside the belief that you can't take care of yourself for convenience?
No, the thing is, if I take that car, I still feel like I'm not standing on my own feet.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
In my way. So what I'm saying is, are you more committed to convenience of having the car and getting around, or are you more committed to your feeling of being able to take care of yourself and being independent?
I'm more committed to feeling independent.
Okay. So what's going to be your decision?
I'm going to, not take the car.
Perfect. How's that feel? Making a choice like that.
A little nervous. I'm a little bit nervous, but I feel like if I can just stay strong like this, better things will come my way.
Excellent. Excellent. So thank you. And there have been people inside the chat box, inside the question box, just saying, "Go, Ingrid! I believe in you. This is powerful." So I want to thank you on behalf of all the other people also who are engaged and they're rooting for you. And some people were offering their answers to the question. It means that she won't, have this or have that. But I appreciate you going through this tremendously, in a public environment like this, because it's super powerful for people to hear how some of these coaching exercises can look. And now just to debrief this, and Dina, hopefully I'm saying your name right, Dina, can you just tell me whether it's Dina or Dinah, because you've been so engaged that I don't want to keep having to say both each time. I want to just be able to know what it is and call you. One of the things that she said was she's not getting to the root yet. And that was just before you said, then I wouldn't feel like I could take care of myself, right? Mm. And that's the only issue inside of all the other things that you said that was really deep.
Yeah.
All the other things were surface level. They were based on convenience. Well, then I would have to keep renting a car, or I wouldn't be able to get around easily. And those things are circumstances to consider. But you feeling empowered and you feeling independent is a deep core conversation. So taking this car is really about you standing up for yourself and feeling independent. And when you get to that point, then the decision is a very, very simple one to make. Don't take this car, right? So that's a coaching exercise. These simple 4 questions is something that you can do with anybody that can help them really clarify and move them to a yes or no powerfully, because they see what the actual outcomes, what the actual consequences of a choice can be. And it requires, most of the time, a brain scrambling experience, such as what wouldn't happen if you did and what wouldn't happen if you didn't. That double negative effect is what loosened you up in order to get you to realize, wow, this is really about me standing on my own feet, basically, right? So that's the power in these questions, and they intentionally confuse people so that we can get to the root cause. That's the whole point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I can see how I can use this with some of my patients that are motivated to work with me in their therapy and their physical therapy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. So thank you, Ingrid. I'm going to put you back on mute here for the background noise, but thank you so much for coming in. And you got a lot of people who are loving on you.
Oh, thank you, everybody.
Thank you again, Ingrid. Cool. That was fun. And yeah, Dinah says she even sounds better. So true. She even sounds better. And this is just a way to powerfully guide somebody to make a decision. You know, so many people are waffling inside of a should I or shouldn't I decision, and nobody has ever waffled their way into their goals and dreams, right? So it's critical to help people be decisive. So that's an example of a very simple coaching exercise that can have tremendous impact and really move people through a transformation. So Ingrid is screaming over there, thank you, thank you. You are welcome. And just to check in on the sound again, I want to make sure that nothing shifted as I muted Ingrid, because somebody just typed in that they couldn't hear. So can you hear me? If you can hear me, type in whatever. Type in yes. I was trying to think of something really cute and fun and so forth, but it was failing me in that moment. So okay, great. I have a lot of people saying yes. All right. Well, what I want to get into now is just the from a high level, neuro-linguistic programming is about doing all this inner work, and some of the inner work that we do involves anchoring, which is where you anchor and make a connection to a certain state of mind for people. It's super, super important and valuable. We go deeper into metaphor mastery, which we talked a little bit about tonight. Expanded awareness is one of my favorite exercises, where you can find the hidden solutions inside of a particular conflict or problem. Reframing, we talked about that, removing the inner conflicts. Guilt and shame are nasty, nasty emotions that really ruin people's joy. And we've got a couple different exercises, one in particular that is a very clean way to eliminate guilt and shame for people. We deep dive into values work, which is a way for you to create intentional fulfillment in your life and be more joyful. We've got an exercise called the painful thought reframe. That's how you can help people that feel like they're stuck, or they can relieve any sort of stuck pain in their body. We talk about the environments that we live in, and similar to values, your environment is a recipe for creating more happiness and joy in your life. The basis of timeline therapy and the essence of reframing is, the basis of neuro-linguistic programming and the essence of reframing and breakthroughs is timeline therapy. That's the most powerful, for my money, the most powerful exercise, because that's how I had my big breakthrough. So I'm biased of that, but that's really the core of the belief work and transformation work. There's another process of releasing emotional pain. There's a 5-step system to do that. There's an exercise on parts integration. That's a way to remove conflict around whether, not necessarily whether you should do something or not do something, but conflict of feelings. Like sometimes I feel this and sometimes I feel that. It's a way to integrate conflict. We go into strategy scrambling. I was scrambled as I was saying that. We go into strategy scrambling, which is helping people change their habits. Superconductivity is an exercise where you uncover deep wisdom from somebody and help them have a big aha around any kind of conflict that they're having in their life. We talk about swish patterns, which is a quick ways to make changes. There's a quick phobia model inside of neurolinguistic programming that helps people erase their phobias. We talk a little bit about sleight of mouth, which is how to use a lot of these processes just in simple conversation with people, which is super fun. So the bottom line is neurolinguistic programming is a way to give you the tools to affect tremendous change in people. And I want you to hear from a couple people. Actually, Lizandra is on the line, I believe. Lizandra, if you're still here, let's just have you come on in. I've got some words here from Lizandra, but I'd rather have you hear from her. So let me unmute you, Lizandra. Okay, you are now unmuted. Can you say something?
Hi, Sean.
Hello, Lizandra. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am so good. Lizandra is one of my favorite people on the planet. We did a certification program in July, and Lizandra was one of those people. She's now training to be one of our coaches, and we just have such a deep connection with our coaches because of all the work that we do and the experience that we share, etc. So anyway, thanks for coming on, Lizandra. I really appreciate it. So I have on the screen here one of the experiences, one of the testimonies you wrote for us, but I'd love for people to hear from you. If you want to speak to what you wrote on there or just speak to anything different, I'd love for them to hear about what this has been like for you inside of coaching, being able to help people, or personal transformation, or just anything at all.
Sure. It's funny because I'm reading the screen. I'm like, what did I say? Anyway, oh, God, I'm hearing an echo. I started, as it says, as a newbie. I had, a year ago today, I can say I didn't know about coaching. I'd never thought about being a coach. And in the 4-month period, my life has totally changed. Not only will you learn practical techniques when you're in the elite certification experience, because that's what I'm calling it. It was an experience.
Right.
But you learn the essence of coaching, which really helped me because I had never been coached before. And I don't know if Sean said it on the call because I got on kind of late, that if he feels like if you're a coach, then you should have been coached before. And so I initially felt like this wasn't going to be the place for me because I had never been coached. But through that experience, I know that I'm in the right place with the right people. And if you haven't figured it out already on this call, Sean is an amazing coach and trainer. And I'm so happy to just be a part of this experience and the team and the people that I've met. I've made lifelong connections. And I'm able to serve my clients. And because in this process, you're going to have some breakthroughs. If you choose to do this program, you will have some breakthroughs using those techniques. And it better helps you serve your clients because you know it works. So Sean talked about timeline therapy. I had the biggest breakthrough of my life through that process. I had some repressed memories about things that had happened to me as a child that I didn't know. And Sean took me through that experience. On the 5th day, where I was totally trusting and comfortable with him and everyone in the room, and made some discoveries about myself. It was amazing. So thank you, Sean. Absolutely love you.
Thank you, Lizandra. I love you too. Thank you for sharing that. I will never forget your timeline therapy in the room. It was so amazing. It was like a seismic breakthrough that we could feel in the fabric of the room. And I just appreciate how you show up. So thank you for jumping on the call and for sharing your experience. I appreciate you. All right, let me mute Lizandra. So that was Lizandra. She is fantastic, and and like she said, she didn't even know about all this stuff 4 months ago, which is so cool. Patricia Gross from New York said that knowing the basic skills is not enough to bring dramatic change to your clients. You've got to know your best self so that you can be your most effective in every session. And she says you'll end each day feeling exhilarated and ready to move forward as a coach. This program is not to be missed for anyone who wants to be part of a community of confident and capable coaches. I like that ring, confident and capable coaches. Kelly Robbins is very simple. Seeing people's lives transform before my eyes is just incredible. She says, I'm addicted. Kelly Hope from Ireland, who's on the call, she was also very new to the world of personal development in general and coaching, but she just had this little voice inside that said, you should do this certification program, 5,000 miles away, because she lives in Ireland. And she says, in hindsight, I've never been so glad in my life to have gone with my gut instinct, and to say this program is a life changer is a total understatement. And Kelly does some amazing work. That's what I love to see. I love to see the transformation in people's lives where they don't know about coaching or they've never done this kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden, a few months later, they're doing this deep transformational coaching with people, and the confidence is higher. It really, truly brings so much joy for me. So I'm going to tell you about the coaching certification program that we have coming up, and it's really to serve. I mean, it's obviously it's to serve coaches, right? But let's talk about what coaches need first before I give you the details of the program. Coaches need confidence. Coaches need certainty in the results they're going to produce. Coaches need tools, exercises, guidelines, frameworks to use with their clients so they know what they're going to do. And that gives them confidence and gives them certainty. And you also need a system to follow. If you don't have a system, then you can get careless. And that carelessness or the lack of certainty shows up in your energy. And as I started the call on, you really need to master coaching. And that's not a tangible line that you'll ever cross. It's really just a journey, constant evolution of your coaching skills. So as the director of coaching for Motivating the Masses, I have implemented the first certification program that Lisa Nichols' company has ever had. And this is a certification program that I've done on my own for a few years, but we're taking it to a whole nother level inside of Motivating the Masses. And we've got another certification program coming up in January. So that's about, it's coming up. It's not too far away from the time that we're recording this. January 4th through the 8th. It's a Monday through Friday. It's deep dive. It's at least 40 hours, and anybody that went through it will tell you it was way more than 40 hours, especially the time that, that they spend on the breaks talking to people or the homework. And, there are some late nights that we go much longer than 5, 6 o'clock. So it's super deep dive into coaching mastery. See, my experience is if you want to be a great coach, you have to swim in it. And by it, I'm talking about your certification process, your learning. You have to swim in it. You can't just learn skills over the phone and then just implement them haphazardly or carelessly with people that you might know. You'll never really get the essence of the transformation. You can't live inside the energy of coaching as you can when you do a deep dive training like this. So that's why it's 5 days. That's why you're required to come out to California so that you can be inside the energy. And I'll tell you, being inside the energy versus just learning the content, because we could just put the content online. And unfortunately, there's a lot of neuro-linguistic programming certifications that you can get online for very cheap, which saddens me because it's watering down the effect of this content. But you can get it online. You'll have 1,000 times better experience when you do it in person and you put yourself in the right environments, right? And you'll really have 3 different levels of experience. One level of experience is you learning the content. I will actually be leading this program. I'll teach skills, I'll teach concepts, I'll teach exercises from the front of the room, and you'll be learning it as the student from the front of the room. And then the power in the exercises is implementing them there in the room. So while you're in the room, you'll pair up with people and you'll do coaching processes back and forth. So while you're doing the coaching process, like while you're being the coach, that's the second level of learning. You're learning to do the process as the coach. But then you'll go back and the other person will coach you. So the third level of learning, which is why Lizandra and Erica and several people in the program call it experience more than just a certification. The third level of learning is as the client. So you'll be going through all of the exercises personally. You can have your own personal breakthrough inside of the certification process. And I mean, I knew that people would have a good experience, but I wasn't prepared for, and I couldn't have predicted the level of deep transformation that people experience. Now, of course, it makes sense to me because inside of a room for 5 days talking about coaching and getting coached and practicing coaching, right? So it makes sense. But that's where the process is just so incredibly powerful. And after the event, at the end of the 5 days, you'll actually have 2 different coaching certifications. Now, certification is important, not so that you can hang it up on your wall and impress people with it, because honestly, people are not going to hire you because you have a certification. A certification is important for your skill set. It's important so that you are a good coach, not that you have a piece of paper that says you're now an Ignite coach or that you're now an NLP transformational breakthrough coach. And certifications are important to people as well. It just feels good. So those are the 2 certifications that you will get. And it's also the very first step of becoming a Motivating the Masses certified coach. See, one of the things that we're doing in this company is we're creating an army of coaches that can coach our clients. We have hundreds of thousands of clients online and on social media rather. We have millions of people in our platform. A lot of those people need to be coached. They want life coaching. They want business coaching. And we don't have the capacity to coach those people. We are looking at making some tremendous, I'm hesitating because I don't know exactly what I can announce and what I can't announce, but we are looking at making some tremendous leaps in customer acquisition, in expanding our reach, in expanding our media exposure in the next few months, actually. We got Lisa has a new book coming out which will attract tons of people into our community, and quite frankly, we don't have enough coaches to coach them. So we have a certification program for Motivating the Masses, which is a step up. It's a level 2 program. So just to be clear, you're not going to be a Motivating the Masses coach by attending this 5-day certification, but we will not even consider hiring somebody as a Motivating the Masses coach and feeding them our clients. We won't even consider it unless they've gone through our certification. And I think everybody understands, why we're taking that stance. So inside this program, we're going to cover how the brain learns at a deeper level, those 4 stages at a deeper level, communicating with the unconscious mind, more on meta programs and filters and strategies and language laws and the 15 components of commitment and all of the intangibles of coaching. Like, how do you just do coaching regardless of the skill set and exercise and the tools that you have? What are the energies of coaching? How do you handle a coaching call? How do you take notes? How do you deliver the notes to the client? How do you manage your time? All of those intangibles of coaching. We'll cover all of that stuff as well inside this 5-day coaching program. So we're super excited about it. It's called the Elite Coaching Certification Program. There are some fast action taker bonuses. One of the bonuses is that you'll get a VIP ticket to Speak and Write to Make Millions, which is one of our signature programs to help speakers and authors and coaches build their business in a bigger way. You'll get a VIP ticket to that, which is worth $597. You'll get immediate access to marketing content. In this program, I didn't teach you anything about marketing, but I do have a program called the Full-Time Coach Project that I did a little while ago, and that is all about marketing. And you get immediate access to that. It's valued at $1,000, and therefore you'll get some of the, not some of it, a lot of the marketing components that you need around branding and selling and increasing your list size and all those things can be found inside the Full-Time Coach Project. You'll get that as a bonus. There are 2 90-minute mastermind calls that you'll get that's outside of the program. That's just me showing up and helping you with whatever you need help with in your life or in your business, and that's valued at $1,000. I like this. Dinah says, is 5 days long enough? Yeah, well, no. The short answer, it's not long enough to master coaching. And we just actually did a 3-day event 2 weeks ago with the people who are training to be Motivating the Masses certified coaches. And even after those 3 days, which were on top of the 5 days, everybody's like, no, we need more, we need more, we need more, we need more. So the short answer is no, it's not long enough. And it's long enough to, to get the certification program in. Kelly says, count me in, I'll be there. Lauren asks, are you doing this training on the East Coast? No, all of our trainings, Lauren, are near our home office in Southern California. And we want to get you, especially in January. We don't want to come to the East Coast in January. We want to get you to the West Coast in January so that you can experience that. Allison says she's checking flights right now. Awesome. That's coming from Australia. Definitely not. Yeah, right. Excellent. And then Clarence says, what's the price? I'm going to get to that here in the next slide, I believe. And the other bonus is that the first 5 people who jump on board will get a one-on-one call with me personally. I'll just sit down. We can do that call soon, or we can wait till after the certification. And I just want to sit down with you and just see how I can help you. And the value of that one-on-one call with me for 45 minutes would be nearly $1,000, $900. So that's for the first 5 people that take action. So the value of those bonuses are nearly $3,500. And the investment on this coaching program, there's 2 investment options. First of all, the value of the program, I don't know how to put a hard value on it in terms of being able to change your life, being able to change other people's lives, the experiences that Kelly talks about, that Erica talks about, that Lizandra shared with you tonight. How do you put a price tag on that? As well as the ability to do that for other people, I could easily say it's priceless. After I got certified in Neuro-Linguistic Programming, the confidence that it gave me allowed me to build a business where I've sold well over $2 million worth of coaching programs and products. And that started with my certification program, right? But at the very least, the certification by itself is easily valued at over $10,000. And here's the investment. The investment is $2,997. So it's less than $3,000. And I'll tell you, that is a smoking price for the value of the program, as well as for what other programs might cost. It's a lot less than what I paid. And quite honestly, here's the honest truth. I want this to be a no-brainer for those of you who know this is your next step. And that's just my philosophy, right? My philosophy is, let's create programs that are so valuable for people that you don't have to sell them, right? You just have to tell them where to go, basically. Actually, I should probably do that. I should tell you how to get this. let me just go through this because there you go. The URL is the bottom of the slide there. I probably should have given it to you earlier. motivatingthemasses.com/ECCP, which stands for Elite Coaching Certification Program. I will actually type this in. I'm gonna type this into the question box here. Motivatingthemasses.com, because I think you can just click on it. I'm pretty sure you can just click on it inside the chat box or inside the question box. So I just sent that to all of you. Motivatingthemasses.com/ECCP. So if you know this is your next step, if you know you want to become a certified coach and you've not gotten any certifications in the past, or you know that you just want to increase your coaching abilities, maybe you want to add another certification, maybe you're already certified in some form of coaching, you want to add this in, that's awesome. We have a payment plan of just $999. Now, I need to explain the payment plan because I need you to be really clear. The payments are scheduled to be 21 days apart, and the reason why is what's next to the asterisk there. You've got to be paid in full. So since there's not a whole lot of time between now, when I'm recording this webinar, so I don't know if you're listening on a recording, I don't know how much time is going to be left. Depends on when, how fast you listen to the recording. But the bottom line is you must be paid in full before you show up to the training. I think you can all appreciate that and understand that, right? So as of right now, we can't do a 30-day payment plan because that would make the third payment after the certification program happens. So in order to maintain integrity with our policies, that program or that payment plan is only 21 days apart. Now, once we get closer to the event, once we basically are about 40 days out from the event, we can't even do that anymore because the third payment will be after the program starts. So at a certain point, which will be relatively soon, we're going to have to take the 3-pay option away, and then maybe somebody could have a 2-pay option. But, you just have to understand it's got to all be paid in full. How many students will be accepted? Maria, thank you for that question. That's a great question. It has to be relatively intimate. We won't do any more than 30 at this point. My preference is probably closer to 20. So that's kind of the soft line, the intention, but we won't do any more than 30. And because that keeps the integrity of the program. You can't, or I can't imagine doing a certification program with the depth of experience that I want to create, with 100 people in the room or even 50 people in the room. It's just too much. So it's an opportunity for you to play at a deep level with a relatively small amount of people. Now in the future, when we've, because you guys, there aren't very many people who even know about this program. To be totally honest with you, we haven't really made it a part of our nurturing process. We haven't done blogs around it. We haven't done any kind of aggressive marketing on it. So most people don't even know about this program. You probably got an email because you were at Powerhouse or you were at Speak and Write or you were on one of my dedicated lists, but most people don't even know about this program. When we make this a focal point, and we will do that next year in 2016, when we make this a focal point of really going out and making a splash in the coaching market, then we're going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And, this webinar will have 500, 750, 1,000 people on it. In order to maintain the integrity of the program, it's going to have to be $7,000, maybe as much as $10,000 in order to keep the numbers down. So if this is at all exciting to you, jump in, honestly, while the price is low, because the price will get higher because we just simply have to. So if you know this is your next step, then jump in. And if you have jumped in, let me know that you've jumped in, so that I can welcome you. Now that you can see that the paid in full price is $2,697 because you save 10% when you pay in full. So the value is $2,997. Broken down in 3 payments, it's $999. If you pay in full, it's less than $2,700. And the value that you're going to receive for less than $2,700 is going to blow your mind. It's going to absolutely blow your mind. So that's the invitation. Somebody says, if we sign up from Canada, will it be in U.S. dollars? Yes. I don't know what the conversion is right now, whether you're signing up from Canada or Australia or some other place. We can't control the conversion, so whatever the conversion is just what you'll have to pay. So, we can't say, oh, it's the same exact dollar amount in Canadian dollars, when in reality, it would be half the price or whatever, because that would be lowering the integrity on our end, with the investment on our end. So we can't do that. I don't even know that. Yeah, you said I don't know where your dollar is compared to the U.S. I'm not sure either, but it'll make whatever conversions it makes, and you'll be charged that much in U.S. dollars. Mary says, how much will it be next week? Okay, so thank you. I put today on here. That's the price for this coaching program. Here's what I'll say. Once we hit a threshold of 20, then we'll raise that price. And I honestly don't know how many people we have right now. I think maybe 7 or 8. This is the first time I've offered this program, and we're only, like 6 or 7 weeks away from it. So we haven't done heavy marketing around this at all. I think there's 7 or 8 people that had already purchased a ticket. Once we hit a threshold of 20, we will probably raise the price to, at least $1,000, just because, like, we already hit our number, that sort of soft line, and the more people that come in the room, the harder it is for us to manage, and the more costs we have, etc. So, but I will make a commitment to all of you that price will stay that price until we hit 20. And if we don't hit 20 until we hit the program, then it'll just stay that price. So the urgency on this is not that I am going to raise the price tomorrow. We don't believe in false urgency in this company. So I'm not going to tell you and lie to you that I'm going to raise the price tomorrow. The urgency is just in the number of seats that are available. So if you want to get in, jump in. And what I would say, Mary, is if it's about checking your work schedule, then if money's not the issue, and it's just about checking your work schedule, then make the investment, and you'll get, if you do it soon enough, you'll get the first 5 bonus of a one-on-one call. And then inside of 3 days, if you find out that you can't make it, then you just get a refund. You always have at least 3 days to get a refund inside of after you purchase something. So if it's just a matter of your schedule, then do that. Thank you, Clarence. I appreciate it. He says, great pricing. This is an outstanding opportunity, says Charlinda. I know this is my next step, but just not for now. I totally understand. We don't want this to stress any of you out. We want it to stretch you, but we don't want it to stress you out. We will never, ever talk somebody into investing into one of our programs if it's their last dime, right? We're not going to talk people into going into debt just so that they can, get into our program. That's not what we believe in. That's just not how we operate. So we're not after your money. And at the same time, obviously, we have a business, and so we charge prices and so forth. But we really take a stand for it being the right fit for you. And so we absolutely honor that. So Chantel says, are you allowing more than 20 in or not? So thank you for the clarification opportunity, Chantel. I will tell you right now that I will not allow more than 30, and the price of $29.97 is good. I will promise that it's good for up to 20. And after we've reached 20, then we'll probably raise the price. And at the risk of upsetting certain people who are on this line, everybody that did it last time paid $5,000. So we just dropped the price immensely to make it a no-brainer, honestly. And there's reasons behind that. I'm not going to go into that on the webinar. I'm happy to have that conversation for any of you that need to have that conversation. But we'll probably raise the price back to $5,000 pretty quickly. I actually didn't even get approval to drop the price on this from the head honchos. I just made the executive decision. So that's where we're at right now. Like I said, if it's a no-brainer for you, then jump in. We'd love to have you. There's not an application process at the moment, Chantel. If we jump into, well, let me put it this way. There's not a formal application process. When you invest in the program, if you choose to invest into it, we're going to contact you and we're going to engage you and try to find out where you are, et cetera. And if we feel like it's not a good fit, we'll let you know. But there's not a formal, official application process set up right now that says, you got to pass this application and then you will be admitted into it. Maria says, I can't find elite coaching on the website. So the website is motivatingthemasses.com/ECCP. Motivatingthemasses.com. So there's not a link on motivatingthemasses.com that will take you to the certification program. You're not going to find that. You have to type in that address. motivatingthemasses.com/ECCP. Let's see what happens when I click on that. This is the page that you'll get. It'll redirect you to this page, and this is what you'll see. You can see it's got the price in there, etc. for what I shared. All right. So if there are any other questions about the program, go ahead and ask them. Some of you are saying you'd love to attend. Yeah, right, Joyce. Right. Wouldn't want to make Susie angry. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. Sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. Lauren, is the next level of training already in place to be a Motivating the Masses coach? Here's the deal with that. Motivating the Masses coaches, there's an additional investment on top of that. There's an additional training. There's another live training, which is what I alluded to earlier. There are conference calls that you have to go through. You have to be a part of our culture. You have to volunteer at our events. You have to basically go through another level of certification and training and learn the Motivating the Masses curriculum, and there's a much higher level of deeper training and certification, and it'll take months, right? It'll take at least 6 months for most people to be ready to be a Motivating the Masses coach. And the benefit is when you're a Motivating the Masses coach, we do the sales and marketing for you. We'll close the coaching clients, and then we'll just hand you paying clients. So if you could imagine just literally getting clients handed to you and you getting paid on their commission when you didn't have to do any of the work. So it's a way for you to leverage the Motivating the Masses brand and the Motivating the Masses platform, but you have to make sure, we have to make sure that you are aligned with our contents, with our fingerprint, with everything before we start sending you clients, because now you're representing the brand. So that is an additional investment, and I don't know when we're going to open that up again, honestly. I don't know. Sometime next year we're going to open up the ability to be a Motivating the Masses coach again, but it's not like an open enrollment. We only open it when we have room and extra clients to give more coaches, right? So that's the timing on that. So I'm not positive that we'll open it up in January, But what I'm saying is when that does get opened up, the only people that will know about it are people that already went through our certification process. Charlinda says, I live in Texas. Will the program always be held in California? I think so. I think it always will be. Chantel says, if there are any questions after this webinar, how do we contact you? Great question, Chantel. Contact me on my Motivating the Masses email address, which is sean@motivatingthemasses.com. I just sent it to everybody, and I will, I'll type it in here. sean@motivatingthemasses.com. Let's see if I can do this quickly. sean@motivatingthemasses.com. So if you do have a question, you can email me there. All right. If there are no other questions, then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Dinah, there's no other date right now. We will be doing the certification programs throughout the year, but I don't know when the next ones will be. Dolores said, what hotel and what's the price for the rooms? I don't know exactly what hotel we're going to be. It'll be in the Los Angeles, Orange County area. But we generally pick a hotel that's not too expensive, you know, around $100 to $150 range. And you can bunk up with somebody else and, you know, have a roommate to lower those costs. Will the certification be similar format as the elite program, short period of time? Yes, it is. There's a much smaller amount of people that are chosen to be Motivated the Masses coaches. Now, that is a process where you have to be chosen to even get into it. It's not, you know, just you pay money and you're accepted. You're welcome for the contact. Allie says, I am in. We'll see you in the new year. I love that, Allie. That makes me so happy. I appreciate that. Deborah, thanks. Thank you for including me. Excellent. Okay. So if you have any more questions, you guys, you can email me. My email address is right down there at the bottom, Sean, S-E-A-N, @motivatingthemasses.com. If this program is for you, jump in. If it's not for you, then that's great. You know, we honor your bold no as well as we honor your bold yes. For those of you that we'll be seeing in January, I can't wait. If you have any other, anything at all, you know, contact us. And if you are choosing not to join us, then I hope this webinar has been valuable for you. I hope you can take the concepts as well as the tools, especially the 4 questions and the idea of reframing and all of that, and apply it to your life and apply it to clients' lives and hopefully have some kind of positive impact in your world in some way. So with that, everyone, have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll talk to you very soon. Take care, you guys.